I started an affair with my coworker, but got the shock of my life when my husband took this revenge.
Hey Reddit, long-time lurker, first-time poster. Never thought I'd be sharing my own story here, but life has a way of throwing you curveballs. I guess I just need to get this off my chest. So, a bit of background. I'm Theo and my wife Alara, and I had been counting down to our silver anniversary. 25 years. It's a long time, right? We've had our ups and downs like any couple, but our bond, it always felt special. Now Alara had this dream. Ever since we were young and broke, leafing through glossy travel magazines together in our tiny first apartment, she'd always pause at photos of Fiji, white sandy beaches, clear blue water, those little huts over the ocean. She'd get this faraway look in her eyes, and I could tell it was more than just a vacation spot for her. It was a dream. With our 25th year coming up, I thought, this is it. This is the time to make that dream come true. I wanted to see that sparkle in her eyes again, that genuine surprise. So, I started planning secretly. It took me months, saving a little on the side, researching the best resorts, and finding the perfect secluded beachfront villa. I even spoke to a local Fijian band to play our song as we arrived. It was going to be picture perfect. My heart raced every time I thought of the moment I'd reveal the surprise. Just imagining her face lighting up made all the sneaking around, the white lies about where the money was going, and the late nights of planning worth it. It was my way of showing her, 25 years, and I'd still move mountains for you. So, with everything set, I hid the tickets inside a scrapbook I'd made, our life story and photos, starting from our awkward first date to now. The last page was going to be a picture of Fiji with the caption, "The next chapter." I thought it was cheesy, but in a good way. And as D-Day approached, I was buzzing with excitement. But, as you've probably guessed, things didn't go as smoothly as I'd hoped. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. That part comes later. Edit. Thanks for the awards, kind strangers. I'll update you all with part 2 soon. Hey again, Reddit. Wow. I wasn't expecting such a response to my last post. I appreciate all the support, truly. It's helping more than I thought it would. Okay, deep breath. Here goes part 2. Work has always been my escape. When things at home got tough, or I just needed to clear my head, diving into a project helped. I'm in software development, and my team is a close-knit bunch. We've pulled too many all-nighters and tackled too many impossible tasks not to be. There's Bryn, our witty and sometimes too blunt lead designer. There's Jana, the team's caffeine-fueled coder. A few others, and then there's me. It was a Thursday, I think. One of those days where lunchtime comes and goes, and you don't even notice. We were in the break room, me, Bryn, and a couple of others. I was talking about how Alara had been working late a lot recently, and how I missed our evening walks. Bryn, sipping his overpriced latte, just casually said, "Speaking of late nights, it's weird, isn't it?" I looked up, a bit confused. "What do you mean?" Bryn shrugged. Alara and Lucan, they sure spend a lot of time together. More than just colleague time, if you catch my drift. He had this smirk, like he was in on some inside joke I wasn't privy to. Now I knew Lucan. He was part of Alara's department. We'd hung out a few times at company parties. Seemed like an all-right guy. Alara mentioned him now and then, usually work stuff. They collaborated on projects, friends, right? But Bryn's comment, it just lingered, like a tiny annoying mosquito buzz that you can't quite locate. I tried to brush it off. "They're just friends, probably working on some big project," I said, forcing a laugh. Bryn just raised an eyebrow. "If you say so, man." I wished then that he was just being his usual, trying to get a rise out of people's self. But as the days went on, I noticed things. Whispers around the office, glances exchanged. Alara becoming a bit more distant, her phone always face down. Had I been so wrapped up in my plans that I missed something so significant happening right under my nose? The seeds of doubt, as you guys rightly pointed out in the comments, were planted. And believe me, they began to grow, fast. Until next time, Reddit. Part 3 is a doozy. Edit. To those saying Bryn might have his own motives, I never thought of it that way. But trust me, the story only gets more tangled from here. Back again, Reddit. I've been going through your comments from the last post, and it's both comforting and horrifying to see that some of you have experienced similar situations. Let's dive into where the real unease began. Remember when things in life were simple? Like when your biggest concern was whether you wanted pepperoni or cheese on your pizza? Yeah, those days felt far behind me. The house that once echoed with laughter and shared secrets became thick with tension. It felt like trying to breathe underwater. Alara's phone seemed like it was always buzzing. Late-night messages, early morning pings, more than I'd ever noticed before. And each time she'd subtly angle the screen away from me, or exit rooms when taking calls. The once open book of our life together was slowly being replaced by locked diaries. One evening, trying to rekindle our old habits, I suggested, "How about we watch that new movie you've been talking about?" She looked distracted, fingers tapping away at her phone. "Who's texting so late?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "Just work stuff," she murmured, her gaze never leaving the screen. I took a deep breath. "Is it Lucan?" The way she looked up, eyes wide and a bit defensive, said more than her words did. "Why would you ask that? It's just some project updates," she said, a tad too quickly, before changing the topic to something about the neighbor's cat. Late nights at the office became the norm. Alara, who used to rush home to our cozy dinner and movie nights, started coming home long after I'd fallen asleep. When she did come to bed, she'd turn away, diving deep into her thoughts, miles away from where I was. Remember Bryn's little hint? I felt like a fool for not taking it seriously. Every fiber of my being screamed that something was off, but I tried to tell myself that it was just work stress or maybe the looming anniversary was making her anxious. Yeah, I know, denial isn't just a river in Egypt. I confided in my best friend Jackson. We'd been bros since college. He'd been my wingman when I first met Alara. Over a couple of beers, I laid it all out. He listened, deep in thought, and finally said, "Man, you need to talk to her. Straight up. No games." I knew he was right. But was I ready for the answers? Hey, Reddit fam. I've been dreading this part, but the story wouldn't be complete without it. So, here's how the floor fell out from under my world. It was a Saturday. Our home, usually alive with weekend energy, was silent except for the hum of the air conditioner. Alara was in the shower, and I was lounging on the couch, diving into some much-needed gaming to distract myself from, well, everything. As I was reaching for my controller, I saw Alara's purse topple from the counter. Out spilled its contents: her wallet, some lipstick, random receipts, and a folded piece of paper. Normally, I'd never invade her privacy, but something about that paper caught my eye. The handwriting wasn't hers. I picked it up and noticed it was addressed to her, from Lucan. "Alara," it began. My heart raced as I read on. "Every stolen moment with you makes me feel alive. Our secret meetings at the park, the thrill of hiding from the world, it's intoxicating. When I'm near you, everything else fades. How do you feel when we're together?" I felt like someone had punched the air out of my lungs. Each word was like a dagger, stabbing at my very core. I read and reread the letter, hoping I had somehow misunderstood, hoping it was some cruel joke. But it wasn't. The undeniable truth was there, in black and white. A whirlwind of emotions hit me. Anger, sadness, disbelief. The room seemed to spin. Was this really happening? Were the last 25 years just meaningless? I heard the water stop, signaling the end of Alara's shower. Panic set in. Do I confront her now? Do I wait? Is this the moment our quarter-century together comes crashing down? I quickly placed the letter back amidst the scattered contents of her purse, making it seem undisturbed. I needed time to think. As she walked into the room, I could barely look at her. Every smile, every touch, every memory was now tainted with doubt. But I kept my poker face, not letting on about my discovery. That night, lying beside her, I felt more alone than ever. Sleep eluded me. The haunting words from that letter replayed in my mind, each iteration causing a fresh wave of pain. I'll leave this update here, Reddit. It's hard to relive, but you've been a great source of support. I promise part 5 is coming soon, and you won't believe the confrontation. Edit. For those of you suggesting I should have confronted her right away, believe me, I wanted to. But sometimes, the weight of reality holds you back. Hey Reddit. First, I want to thank you all for the kind messages and advice on my previous posts. They've been a beacon in a very dark time. So, here's how the confrontation went down. I spent days in a haze after finding that letter. Every interaction with Alara felt like a charade as I grappled with the anger and hurt boiling inside me. I played the scenarios over and over in my mind. But one evening, as we sat across from each other at dinner, the weight of the silence was too much to bear. With the letter clenched in my hand, I looked at Alara, took a deep breath, and asked, "What's going on between you and Lucan?" Her eyes widened in shock. For a split second, I thought I saw guilt flash across her face, but she quickly masked it. "What do you mean?" she replied, feigning innocence. I placed the letter on the table. "This, Alara, what is this?" She stared at the letter, her face turning pale. "Theo, it's not what it looks like," she whispered, tears forming in her eyes. "Then please," I said, my voice trembling with emotion, "tell me what it is." For a moment, she was silent, collecting herself. We just became close, you know? We shared things, thoughts, feelings, but it wasn't supposed to be this way. I felt a sharp sting of betrayal. Shared feelings? What about our feelings? Our memories? Did they mean nothing to you? Alara cried, "I never meant to hurt you. It was a mistake." But her words felt empty, especially when juxtaposed with the raw emotions in Lucan's letter. She tried to gaslight me further. "We're just really close friends, Theo. You're blowing this out of proportion. You always get so jealous." Close friends? After everything I had seen and felt? "Alara, don't insult my intelligence. Close friends don't write letters like this." She looked defeated, avoiding my eyes. "I'm so sorry, Theo," she whispered. But was she sorry for the act or sorry for being caught? The line between reality and deception had blurred so much, I couldn't tell anymore. That night, our house, which had been a sanctuary of love and trust, felt like a prison of doubts and broken dreams. I'll continue soon, Reddit. Writing this out is therapeutic in a way, but also so damn painful. I need a break. All right, Reddit, I'm back. Buckle up, because this part is, well, just read. The day after the confrontation with Alara, I felt lost. Part of me was desperate for an explanation, something more than Alara's half-hearted apologies. Lucan was the other side of this twisted equation. I needed to hear his side of the story. After some digging, I managed to find his contact. We agreed to meet at a cafe in downtown Boston, away from prying eyes. I remember the place was buzzing with activity, people chatting, the sound of coffee machines hissing, the clinking of cutlery. Yet, in my world, everything was silent except for the throbbing pain in my chest. Lucan looked uneasy when I walked in. As we sat down, he took a deep breath. "Before you say anything," he started, "I want to apologize." My face was a mask of anger. "Go on," I replied curtly. He sighed, looking down at his hands. This started as a stupid game. Some friends and I, we had this sick challenge." He hesitated. "To see who could get close to someone's wife, to see if we could steal them away." I stared, my jaw dropping. "You're telling me my life, my love, was just a pawn in your twisted game?" Lucan nodded, shame evident in his eyes. "Yes, but it spiraled, Theo. It became something more than just a game. Feelings got involved. It got complicated." Rage bubbled up inside me. "So my 25 years with Alara was just a joke to you? Some competition?" He flinched. "I never meant for it to go this far. I should have stopped. But, as I said, feelings got involved." "Feelings?" I spat. "What about my feelings? Alara's feelings?" He looked down, defeated. "I can't justify what I did. I messed up." The enormity of what he confessed was too much to handle. My wife wasn't just having an affair. It was a challenge for him, a game. A part of me wanted to lash out, to shout, to vent all my pain. But another part was just numb. I got up, leaving Lucan in the cafe, struggling with his guilt, or whatever it was he felt. The days following the cafe revelation were the darkest I've ever had to endure. Everywhere I turned, the weight of betrayal pressed down on me. But with that pain came a fierce determination. I was done being the victim in their twisted game. It was time to flip the script. I crafted a plan, one that'd serve them a cold dish of revenge. I called Alara, my voice purposefully cheerful. How about a pre-anniversary dinner? A fresh start for both of us. I'd like Lucan to be there too. Let's clear the air. She sounded relieved, perhaps thinking this was a sign I was ready to move past the betrayal. That sounds lovely, Theo, she replied hesitantly. The night of the dinner, I booked the private dining room at Boston's most upscale restaurant. I wanted the setting to scream special occasion. The irony wasn't lost on me. As the night approached, my stomach was a mix of nerves and anticipation. They both arrived, looking awkward. I greeted them with a smile, trying to keep my face neutral. "Thanks for coming," I said, ushering them to their seats. They exchanged anxious glances but said nothing. After we ordered, I decided to set the stage. I raised my glass. "To new beginnings," I toasted. They raised their glasses hesitantly. As the night went on, I regaled them with stories of our past, deliberately choosing the most intimate moments Alara and I shared. Every anecdote was a reminder of the life they were trying to tear apart. The climax came with dessert. I had prepared a special video montage. "A trip down memory lane," I announced, hitting play. The screen showcased happy moments, our wedding, holidays, the birth of our children. Their faces grew paler with each scene. The video ended with the text, 25 years. Was it all a game? Silence. Their faces were a picture of shock and guilt. Alara's eyes brimmed with tears. "Theo, I held up a hand to stop her. "I brought you both here not for reconciliation, but for you to truly grasp the gravity of what you did. This," I gestured to the screen, "is what you tried to destroy." Lucan was the first to break. "I'm so sorry, Theo." He looked genuinely remorseful. I nodded coldly. "Enjoy the rest of your evening." With that, I left, leaving them to grapple with their conscience. Reddit, the revenge might not have been explosive, but seeing their faces, knowing they felt even a fraction of the pain I felt, was enough for me. More updates to come. Hey again, Reddit. I left out a major detail in my last post, but I needed some time to gather my thoughts before sharing this bombshell. So, here goes. Before the dinner, while my anger was fresh from the cafe meeting with Lucan, I had an idea. I sent him a text, acting as though I was more understanding, trying to see things from his perspective. Surprisingly, he responded, and we had a lengthy conversation. Unknown to him, I recorded the entire exchange. At the pre-anniversary dinner, right after the video montage ended, and the room was heavy with guilt and remorse, I took out my phone. I announced, "There's something else I'd like everyone to hear." I played the recording. Lucan's voice filled the room, detailing their twisted game, his competition with friends, how it all started as a fun challenge and spiraled into something deeper. The raw confession, every word dripping with remorse and guilt, echoed through the silent room. All eyes turned to Lucan. His confident demeanor had vanished, replaced by sheer embarrassment. He looked like he wished the ground would swallow him whole. Alara, on the other hand, was in shock. It seemed she was unaware of the game Lucan and his friends had played. The look she gave him was a mix of hurt and betrayal. She had been played, just like me. "Lucan? Why?" she whispered, voice shaky. Lucan, for once, was speechless. The weight of the truth hung heavily in the room. I took a deep breath. "I wanted all of you to know the truth, to understand the gravity of the game they played with our lives," I said, looking directly at Lucan. The rest of the evening was a blur. People were outraged, whispering among themselves. Some counseled Alara, while others cast judgmental glances at Lucan. The unity in their betrayal had shattered, and the tables had turned. I left the restaurant with a sense of closure. While the pain was far from over, unveiling the truth was a step toward healing. All right, Reddit, another update. This one is heavy. A couple of days after the dinner reveal, I found myself holding the 2 tickets to Fiji. A trip that was supposed to be a celebration of our love, now a painful reminder of what had been lost. My heart ached thinking of the surprise I'd planned, the dreams shattered. I called Alara, asking to meet. She hesitated, but eventually agreed. We decided on a small park near our home, where we'd taken our kids countless times when they were younger, a place filled with memories of simpler times. She was already there when I arrived, looking forlorn. The vibrant, confident woman I fell in love with seemed to have faded away. Without a word, I took out the tickets, holding them in front of her. Her eyes widened in realization. "Fiji?" she whispered. I nodded, fighting back tears. This was supposed to be our special surprise, a reminder of our love. But things have changed. My voice cracked. It doesn't mean what it once did. She looked at the tickets, tears streaming down her face. "Theo, I held up a hand to stop her. "I thought about going alone, but then I figured you might want to go. Maybe Lucan would like to join you." The words came out colder than I intended, but I was running on raw emotion. I handed her one of the tickets. She took it, her hand trembling. The weight of the symbolic gesture wasn't lost on either of us. "I'm sorry," she whispered, but it felt empty. Everything did. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my composure. "Maybe this trip will give you clarity, Alara. Maybe it'll help you find whatever it is you're looking for." I turned away, leaving her standing there amidst the memories of our past. The Fiji trip, once a symbol of love, was now a parting gift of sorts. Hey again, Reddit. It's Theo. I'm typing this from a small cafe in Fiji, overlooking the most pristine beach you can imagine. As the waves roll in, I can't help but reflect on everything that has happened. Fiji. I had envisioned this trip so differently in my mind. Warm laughter, the intertwining of hands, and loving glances shared between Alara and me. But the reality, it's just me, the vast ocean, and a heart trying to piece itself back together. The beauty here is unparalleled. Every morning I watch the sunrise, the sky painted in shades of pink and gold, yet there's a void, an emptiness that can't be filled by even the most breathtaking vistas. Each sunset reminds me that another day has passed, another day where the wound is still fresh. I've met many people here, from all walks of life. A couple celebrating their honeymoon, a family on a holiday, and an old man, Mr. Patea, who's lived in Fiji his entire life. It was him who shared a piece of wisdom that resonated deeply. Sometimes the waves crash hard, young man, but the ocean always finds its calm again. At first I thought he was talking about the sea, but as days went by, I understood. It was about life, about love, about the ups and downs we all face. Alara and Lucan never crossed paths with me here, and while a part of me dreaded running into them, another part, perhaps masochistically, hoped to. I wanted to see if they had found happiness in their betrayal, if it was worth it. But as the days passed, the pain started to ebb, replaced by a realization. Our love story, as beautiful as it was, had reached its final chapter. Trust, the very foundation of our relationship, was shattered, and no trip, no amount of time, could piece it back to its original form. Tomorrow, I head back home, but not to the same life. I've decided to start anew, a fresh beginning, away from the shadows of the past. Where? I haven't decided yet, but wherever it is, I'll carry the lessons of Fiji with me. So, Reddit, this might be my last update on this chapter of my life. Thanks for being with me through the highs and lows. The journey's far from over, but at least I know I'm not walking it alone. Edit. To those who messaged with kind words, stories, and advice, thank you. It means more than words can express. As I adjusted the rearview mirror, the familiar skyscrapers of our old city faded in the distance. Ahead, the scenic beauty of our new town beckoned, with lush trees waving in greeting. The shift in scenery mirrored the fresh start I felt deep within. The job transfer had been unexpected, but sometimes life's surprises are its best gifts. Sarah and I had always dreamt of a peaceful life away from the hustle and bustle. When the job offer came in, with its promise of a better position and a significant pay raise, it felt like the universe was listening. "Here's to new beginnings," Sarah had whispered in my ear, her excitement infectious. Finding a house was the next big step. we skipped the cliched streets and settled on Maple Lane. Our new home was a charming little place with a backyard garden where I envisioned weekend barbecues and twilight tea sessions. It wasn't just a house, it felt like home. Our neighbors seemed friendly, often sharing a warm hello or a wave, making us feel welcomed. One lazy Sunday, as we lounged around, Sarah pinched her side playfully. "Dave," she said with mock exasperation, "we've been indulging a bit too much, haven't we? I think it's time I hit the gym." I grinned. "You're always beautiful to me." But I could see the earnestness behind her light tone. I wanted her to feel her best, to find her place and joy in this new setting. After some research, I stumbled upon Peak Fitness. It was top-rated and not far from home. Without a second thought, I got her a membership. I imagined it would be a good outlet for her, maybe even a place to make new friends. I surprised her with the membership card the next day, watching as her eyes widened in delight. "Oh, Dave, this is wonderful. Thank you," she said, wrapping her arms around me. As days turned into weeks, Sarah's gym tales became a regular part of our dinner conversations. She'd speak animatedly about her workouts, the new faces, and her experiences. It felt good to see her so happy. But little did I know that this very decision, meant to be a simple act of love, would soon change the course of our lives in ways I could never have imagined. The handsome coach. One evening, as I was organizing some papers in our study, I overheard Sarah chatting animatedly on the phone with her friend, Monica. "You won't believe the new coach at Peak Fitness, Mon," she giggled. "He's like one of those models from a fitness magazine cover." Intrigued, I couldn't help but listen in a bit more. Sarah rarely talked about people this way. "He's incredibly tall, has chiseled features, and you should see those muscles. Every time he walks into the room, everyone just stares." I chuckled to myself. It seemed like Sarah had a mini celebrity in her gym. She continued, "His name's Alex. You remember Jenna from the morning batch? She nearly dropped her weights today when he corrected her posture." It was heartening to hear Sarah so spirited. The move had been challenging, and hearing her so animated about a small gym crush felt endearing. Little harmless gym talk, I mused. The following week, Sarah seemed even more enthusiastic about her workouts. "Alex gave me some great tips today," she beamed one evening, her eyes shining. "He thinks I have potential, and if I'm interested, he's open to giving me personal training sessions." I hesitated for a split second. "That's great, isn't it?" I said, trying to sound enthusiastic. "Just be careful not to overdo it." Sarah caught the hint of concern in my voice. "Oh, Dave, it's not like that," she said, playfully nudging me. "It's just professional. Besides, think about how toned I'll be for our beach vacation next month." But as the days passed, Sarah began talking about Alex more frequently. Their workout sessions, the healthy diet he recommended, the jokes he cracked. It started becoming a regular part of our conversations. One evening, she showed me a video on her phone of her achieving a new fitness milestone, with Alex cheering her on in the background. "Look at that! I couldn't have done it without him," she gushed. I tried to brush off the uneasy feeling brewing within me. After all, Sarah was just excited about her fitness journey, right? Yet, I couldn't shake off the growing sense of unease every time his name was mentioned. Was it just innocent admiration, or was there something more lurking beneath the surface? The first suspicions. Over the next few weeks, I noticed subtle changes in our routines. The woman who once loved lazy mornings now jumped out of bed with a zeal I hadn't seen in years. Sarah's workout outfits grew trendier, and there was a new perfume she wore, one that I hadn't gifted her. One evening, I planned a surprise dinner for us. I cooked her favorite pasta and lit some candles. As the clock ticked past our usual dinner time, I found myself constantly glancing at the door. Sarah finally walked in almost 2 hours late, her face flushed and her hair disheveled. "Oh, Dave, I lost track of time at the gym. Alex was showing me some advanced moves," she said, sounding genuinely sorry. Trying to hide my disappointment, I served the now cold dinner. It wasn't just the late nights. There were now secretive phone calls, too. I'd often enter a room to find Sarah quickly ending a call or tilting her phone away. "Just gym stuff," she'd brush off when I asked. One Saturday morning, as I was fixing a leaky tap in our bathroom, Sarah's phone buzzed continuously on the counter. Curiosity getting the better of me, I glanced at the screen. There were several new messages, all from Alex. Most were about workouts, but a few were different, personal. "You looked great in that new outfit today," one of them read. A storm of emotions whirled inside me, anger, confusion, disbelief. But more than anything, I felt a pang of betrayal. I convinced myself that maybe I was reading too much into it. It was just a compliment, right? A few days later, my good friend Mike invited me for a drink. As we settled into our booth, he hesitated, then said, "Look, Dave, I don't want to stir things up, but I've seen Sarah and Alex together a couple of times at this new cafe downtown. They looked cozy." My heart sank. Mike continued, "I thought you should know, mate. I mean, it might be nothing, but it didn't sit right with me." As I drove home that night, my mind raced. Was Sarah just making a new friend, or was there something more to her bond with Alex? My trust in our relationship, once unwavering, now wobbled on shaky ground. The love of my life, my partner in everything, seemed to be slowly slipping away, and I felt powerless to stop it. The secret meeting. Over the next week, my thoughts were consumed by what Mike had told me. Every time Sarah left for the gym, a knot tightened in my stomach. I found myself distracted at work, replaying her interactions with Alex in my mind. Was I being paranoid, or was I missing blatant signs? One afternoon, I got an idea. What if I just happened to run into them at the cafe Mike mentioned? I could see for myself what was going on and maybe put my fears to rest. The following day, I left work early and drove to the cafe. Securing a hidden spot near the back, I settled in with a newspaper, peeking over the top every so often. The minutes turned into an hour, and I was just about to leave when they walked in, Sarah and Alex. My heart raced as I watched them from behind my newspaper shield. They chose a corner table, laughing about something. It wasn't the friendly banter between a coach and trainee. There was an intimacy to it that made my skin crawl. Their hands occasionally brushed against each other as they talked, and their laughter seemed just a little too personal. At one point, Alex whispered something into Sarah's ear, making her blush deeply. That image, of them so close, felt like a dagger in my chest. Doubt and disbelief warred within me. I wanted to storm over, to confront them then and there, but something held me back. Maybe it was the fear of causing a scene or the hope that I was still misinterpreting the situation. I needed more concrete evidence. Slipping out of the cafe, I felt the weight of the world on my shoulders. The drive home was a blur. I entered our home, my home, with a heavy heart, trying to keep a facade of normalcy. Sarah was her usual self, talking about her day, completely oblivious to the fact that I knew about her secret rendezvous. That night, as she slept peacefully next to me, I lay awake, lost in my thoughts. The woman I loved was keeping secrets, and I was left grappling with the reality of our crumbling relationship. I needed to know the truth, no matter how painful. It was time for a confrontation. The discovery. As the days passed, the atmosphere in our home grew tenser. My smiles were strained, and conversations became curt. Sarah sensed it, I could tell, but neither of us addressed the looming cloud of suspicion. One evening, I couldn't hold it in any longer. "I know about the cafe, Sarah," I blurted out as we sat down for dinner. Her eyes widened in surprise, her fork halfway to her mouth. "What do you mean?" she stammered, trying to feign innocence. "I saw you, with Alex, laughing, whispering, getting cozy," I said, my voice shaking with a mix of anger and despair. Sarah looked taken aback. "Dave, it's not what you think. We're just friends." But I wasn't convinced. Friends. Since when do friends have secret meetings and whisper sweet nothings? Sarah took a deep breath, her eyes glistening with tears. "I didn't tell you because I knew you'd react this way, but it's truly innocent. We have coffee sometimes after our sessions. That's it." However, the growing pile of evidence in my mind refused to accept her explanation. "Then explain the texts, Sarah, the secretive phone calls, the change in your behavior." She looked down, playing with her food. After a long pause, she finally spoke. "All right, there's something you should know." She walked over to a drawer and pulled out a sleek folder. Handing it over, she said, Open it. Curiously, I flipped it open. Inside were detailed plans for a new fitness center, brochures, and a business proposal. The title read, "Revive Fitness, a New Horizon in Wellness and Training." I looked up at her, puzzled. "What's this?" Sarah took a deep breath. "Alex approached me with a business proposal a few weeks ago. He wanted to start a new fitness center, and he thought I'd be a great partner, given my passion and knack for management. We were working on this together, Dave. That's what the meetings were about. It was all business." I was dumbstruck. All the pieces of the puzzle suddenly fit, but in a way I hadn't expected. The realization hit me hard. My suspicions, my accusations, all were rooted in a grave misunderstanding. "But why keep it a secret?" I whispered. She sighed. "I wanted it to be a surprise, a venture of our own, something we could look forward to. But I realize now I should have been transparent with you." We sat in silence, the weight of my accusations and her revelations hanging heavily between us. The path ahead seemed uncertain, but one thing was clear: trust, once broken, would take time to rebuild. The confrontation. The revelation about the business venture left me reeling. I was torn between feeling relieved that my wife wasn't having an affair and the guilt of having doubted her in the first place. I had let jealousy and suspicion cloud my judgment, and the aftermath of that was a gulf of distance between Sarah and me. A few nights later, Sarah and I sat in the dimly lit living room, the only sound being the rhythmic ticking of the wall clock. There was so much I wanted to say, to apologize for, but words failed me. "Dave, we can't go on like this," Sarah began, her voice barely above a whisper. "You need to trust me." "I do, Sarah. I truly do. When I saw you with him, laughing, sharing secrets, I felt replaced, left out." Sarah's face crumpled. "I never meant to make you feel that way, but you should have talked to me, not jumped to conclusions." She was right, but another nagging thought remained. Why Alex, Sarah? Of all people. Why get involved with him? Sarah looked away for a moment, collecting her thoughts. "He's good at what he does, Dave, and he saw potential in our partnership. It was purely professional. But I wasn't ready to let go. You must have seen how he acted, the messages he sent. They weren't just professional." Sarah sighed. "He did get a bit friendly, maybe even flirty, but I kept it strictly about business. I set boundaries." I rubbed my temples, trying to process everything. "You should have told me. About the flirty texts, about everything, instead of keeping secrets." Sarah nodded, tears in her eyes. "I know. I should have. But I didn't want to worry you, or make you think it was something it wasn't." Before we could continue, there was a sudden knock on the door. I opened it to find Alex, looking a bit disheveled and holding a bouquet of flowers. "Is Sarah here? I wanted to apologize for the misunderstandings and hope we can continue with the project," he said, a little too confidently. Seeing him at our doorstep was the last straw for me. "You've done enough," I snapped, anger surging through me. "Stay away from my wife, and stay away from this house." Alex seemed taken aback. "Look, I get it, you're upset, but I never intended to come between you two. We have a potentially successful venture at hand. Let's not ruin it over personal differences." Sarah stepped forward, her voice firm. "Alex, the project is on hold until further notice, and for the sake of professionalism, I'd prefer if our future meetings are kept within business hours and at the office." Alex looked between us, the weight of the situation finally settling in. "All right," he said, defeated. "I hope we can sort this out soon." He left the bouquet by the doorstep and retreated. Closing the door, Sarah and I turned to face each other. We were both at a crossroads, grappling with feelings of betrayal and misunderstanding. The future of our relationship hung in the balance, and only time would tell if we could find our way back to each other. The planned days turned into weeks, and while the air between Sarah and me was still thick with tension, there was an underlying desire to rebuild what had been shaken. We both felt it, even if neither of us said it aloud. We began attending couples therapy, which provided us a platform to air our grievances and work through the mistrust. One evening, after a particularly emotional therapy session, I sat at our kitchen island, going over bills and household accounts. I stumbled across a credit card statement, one I wasn't familiar with. Curiosity piqued. I went through the charges. There were several large amounts credited to a company named Revive Ventures. My heart sank. It was related to the fitness center project. "Sarah," I called out hesitantly, holding up the statement. She walked in, glanced at the paper, and took a deep breath. "I used our joint savings for the initial payments for the center. I thought it would be a profitable venture for us." "I wish you had discussed this with me first," I replied, trying to keep my voice even. Sarah's face was a mix of guilt and desperation. "I know, Dave. I messed up. But we can't back out now. We stand to lose everything." A heavy silence settled between us. The weight of our decisions, both spoken and unspoken, pressed down on us. "I have an idea," I began slowly, my mind racing. "What if we take control of this project? Ensure that it becomes the success you envisioned. But this time, we do it together." Sarah looked up, hope glimmering in her eyes for the first time in weeks. "How?" "We get involved in every aspect of it. From the layout of the gym, to the training programs, to marketing. And most importantly, we set clear boundaries with Alex." Sarah nodded, determination setting in. "We can do this. Together." Over the next few days, we dived into the project headfirst. We researched competitors, drew up marketing plans, and brainstormed ideas to make our fitness center stand out. The more we worked on it, the more our bond strengthened. We were a team again. We also met with Alex, laying down clear guidelines for our professional relationship. While he was initially resistant, he understood that our united front was non-negotiable. Late one night, as we pored over design layouts, Sarah looked up at me. "Thank you, Dave, for believing in this, in us." I smiled, taking her hand. "We're in this together." The fitness center, our shared dream, became the anchor that pulled us out of our stormy seas. It was a symbol of our renewed commitment to each other. And as we worked towards its launch, we realized that while the path of love is never smooth, navigating it together makes it worth the journey. The Fallout Revive Fitness was shaping up to be a formidable venture. Every brick, every machine, every advertisement bore testimony to Sarah's vision and our combined efforts. With our grand opening just a few weeks away, the pressure was mounting. One morning, as I was scouring local papers for any mention of our center, an article caught my eye. It was in the business section, a feature on upcoming fitness ventures in the city. Eagerly, I began to read, expecting a positive mention of Revive Fitness. Instead, what I found was a scathing critique. The article hinted at mismanagement, questionable financial dealings, and even made veiled insinuations about Sarah's relationship with Alex. My blood boiled. "Sarah!" I shouted, waving the paper. She came running, worry lines evident on her face. As she skimmed the article, her face turned a shade paler. "This is sabotage," she whispered. We both knew who was behind it. Alex. Despite our attempts to keep things professional, it was clear he was unhappy with our united front, perhaps seeing it as a threat to his role in the venture. We had to act, and fast. Negative publicity like this could spell the end for our fledgling business before it even began. "We need to address this publicly," I said, determination filling me. "Clear our names and set the record straight." Sarah nodded. "A press conference. Let's invite all major media outlets and put forth our side of the story." Over the next 2 days, our home turned into a war room. We gathered evidence of our business dealings, our financial statements, everything that could prove the allegations false. The day of the press conference arrived. The room was packed with reporters, their cameras flashing. The hum of whispers filled the room as Sarah and I took our places at the podium. "We've called this press conference to address the false allegations made against us and our business," Sarah began, her voice steady. "For the next hour, we presented our evidence, refuting every claim made in the damaging article. The audience watched, rapt as we laid out the truth. As the conference concluded, reporters swarmed us with questions. It was evident the tide was turning in our favor. That evening, as the story of our press conference made headlines, my phone buzzed with a message. It was from Alex. "Meet me. We need to talk." The next day, at a quiet park, I faced Alex. "Why, Alex?" I asked, anger evident in my voice. "Why try to sabotage us?" Alex looked down, guilt and regret evident on his face. I felt sidelined, replaced. When you two united, I felt my role diminish. I overreacted. "I'm sorry." His apology, though sincere, couldn't undo the damage he'd inflicted. "You need to make it right, Alex. Publicly." He nodded, understanding the gravity of his actions. Over the next week, Alex gave several interviews, retracting his statements and apologizing for his role in the smear campaign. The public, always eager for a redemption story, lapped it up. However, the trust was broken. Sarah and I decided to buy out Alex's share in the venture, parting ways professionally. The fallout from the controversy made one thing clear. In business and in life, trust is fragile, and once shattered, it's a long road to recovery. The rejection. I was going over the guest list for the grand launch of Revive Fitness when my phone buzzed. An unknown number, but the message was clear. "Meet me at the park near the fountain. Midnight. There's something you should know." A chill ran down my spine. Who could this be, and what did they want to tell me? The clock seemed to move slower that evening, every tick echoing with the weight of anticipation. When midnight finally approached, I made my way to the park. The moonlight painted everything in a soft, ghostly hue. I could see a silhouette near the fountain, and as I drew closer, I recognized Natalie, Sarah's best friend. "Dave," she began, her voice shaky, "there's something you need to know." I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. "Go on," I urged. She looked me straight in the eyes. "That article about Revive, the accusations." Sarah knew. She didn't orchestrate it, but she knew it was coming out. She thought it would create buzz for the center. I felt a rush of emotions: betrayal, disbelief, anger. "Why would she?" I murmured, trying to make sense of it. Natalie wiped away a tear. Pressure, desperation. She thought any publicity would help. My heart was heavy as I walked back home. The walls of our house, which once echoed with love and laughter, now felt cold and distant. The next morning, I faced Sarah. My voice trembled. "Did you know about the article, Sarah?" Her reaction said it all. She looked away, guilt evident. "I thought it would help, Dave. I never realized the consequences." I could feel a chasm growing between us. "You risked our reputation, our trust, for what? A moment in the spotlight?" Tears streamed down her face. "I'm so sorry, Dave. I messed up." But the damage was done. "I need space," I said, my voice breaking. "I need to figure things out." She reached out, but I pulled away. The house, our relationship, everything felt different. The following days were a blur. The grand opening of Revive Fitness was a success, but my personal life was falling apart. Sarah tried to reach out. Her messages filled with regret and longing, but every word was a painful reminder of the trust we had lost. I had always imagined we'd face life's challenges together, but now I wasn't so sure. The betrayal had left a scar, and I didn't know if it would ever heal. The days blurred into a somber gray monotony, each morning tainted by the residue of last night's disputes. Our house, once a sanctuary of shared dreams and passions, now felt like a cold war zone. Every conversation seemed to walk a tightrope, every silence pregnant with unsaid words. One day, a familiar melody danced into the room. It was our song, the one that played on our first date. The nostalgia gripped me, and a flood of memories washed over. Memories of brighter, happier days. Suddenly, the door creaked open. Sarah stood there, a flicker of hope in her eyes, holding a small box. "Dave," she whispered, her voice quivering. "I found this. It's the mixtape you made me when we first met. I thought, maybe, if we listened to it together, it might remind us of why we fell in love in the first place." My heart wrenched, but I felt the walls I had built over time were too thick to penetrate now. "Sarah, I began, my voice firm yet gentle. There were so many beautiful moments, but the pain, it's too much. I can't just forget and move on. She took a deep breath, her fingers nervously playing with the edges of the box. We can try therapy, counseling, anything, Dave. I believe we can get through this. The sincerity in her voice was evident, but the raw wounds of betrayal and the shadows of the past weighed heavily on me. Sarah, I responded, a lump in my throat. I can't live in the what-ifs and maybes. I've tried, but every time I look into your eyes, all I see is the pain we've inflicted on each other. Tears threatened to spill from her eyes. Dave, I'm begging you, give us another chance. We've been through so much together. I felt a deep sadness. It was clear she still clung to the hope that love could conquer all, but reality had shown me differently. I wish I could, Sarah, but the trust, once shattered, is impossible to mend, at least for me. The atmosphere grew heavy, the silence between us widening like an abyss. Sarah finally nodded, her tears breaking free. If that's what you truly feel, she whispered, her voice breaking, then I guess there's nothing more to say. I stood at a crossroads, torn between the pain of the past and the faint hope of a possible future with Sarah. Her eyes searched mine, desperate for an answer. But in this moment of uncertainty, I turned to you. Should I give our love another chance, or is the pain too much to bear? What would you do?